What is up? This is Warren Freeman, episode 47, here with Warren's vlog. I'm not going Facebook Live, just going straight to YouTube with this one. So, Hell in a Cell happened last night, and history was made. What I hoped for in my last video, if you guys watched, I was hoping that they would let the women main event, and they did. And it was a hell of a match. I'm gonna go into it in detail later on when I get to it, and I'll explain everything when I get to it. But I was just so happy to see Vince McMahon or whoever it was that made the decision in the company to let the women main event, just to see what they could do. And they did some shit. That's all I'm gonna say right now. I'm gonna get to the match later on. But Hell in a Cell started off last night with again, the way my videos work, I explain in every video. For anyone who just may randomly come across this video and have never watched Warren's vlog before, my rating system is from 0 to 5. I have decimal points in place um, because I may feel like I may give a match a 3. I may give it a 3.3. I may want to give 3 matches 3s, but maybe these matches are just a little bit better than a 3, so I'll give it a 3.2, 3.3 whatsoever. Uh, if it's a 0, I have rated matches lower than a 0. You can see WrestleMania 9 or my review for that. And I've only given out 1 5, and that was the Triple H and Undertaker WrestleMania 28, which I have actually not done the video for. I actually wrote a vlog for that. But that's one video that I'm going to do. Probably just going to watch WrestleMania 28 and just review off of what I saw and off of what I wrote, which wouldn't be a vlog, it'd be a blog. A vlog is what I'm doing right now. All right. I'm not gonna do these in the order I'm not gonna review these in the order that they were last night because I wrote them down, and I'm gonna write them down, and I'm gonna review them in the order in which I wrote them down. Like, for example, Dana and Bayley, I'm going to do first because I didn't even know that was going to be on a card. I thought that was going to be on the pre-show, and it probably should have been on the pre-show because it was just a waste of Bayley's time. And the thing is, I'm not saying Dana Brooke is bad. I mean, Dana Brooke has improved, but you could have easily put that. I think that particular match should have been on the pre-show, and that awesome 6-man cruiserweight tag team match could have easily have gone on the main show. And you could have put Dana Brooke and Bayley on the pre-show. They should have swapped that. And as awesome as that 6-man was, I'd give that probably about a 4. But another rule with my ratings is I don't rate pre-show matches. I only rate what's on the main card. So that 6-man tag, I'd give that a 4. That was a fast-paced match. I really like that lumbar check that Cedric does, or sorry, Alexander. His name is Alexander, the black guy. Not the dancing black guy, but the other black guy. They're all black. Some of them are black guys. Anyway, so Dana Brooke and Bayley got a 2.5. What I did not like about this match was I kind of felt like with Bayley, and it's not with Bayley personally. It's just the way that the match was constructed. They kind of went with the old Rocky or John Cena thing where the face gets his ass beat or her ass beat, and then the face makes a comeback, just like in Rocky and like in every Rocky movie you've ever watched. That's what happened. Sylvester Stallone gets his ass beat, and then in the movie or at the end of the fight in the movie, he comes back and knocks the guy out. They book John Cena like that a lot. He'll get his ass kicked, and he'll come back and do his 5 moves of doom. Since we're talking about divas, AJ Lee was also a victim of that Rocky booking. That's what I'm going to call it now, Rocky booking, where AJ Lee would take a lot of punishment and then she'd come back and get the Black Widow and win the match. With Bayley, this was the same thing. Dana Brooke beat the crap out of Bayley for most of the match, and Bayley randomly hit a Bayley to belly, and that was it. Now, I have a story about that Bayley to belly that I want to share with you. I was in a battle royal last week, a costume battle royal, and I dressed up as Bill Cosby. If I find the link to that battle royal, I will post it here in this comments. And I do work for RIPW, Alan Struthers. I'm a referee there, but I have the opportunity to compete in a battle royal, a costume battle royal, and I was dressed as Bill Cosby. There was a gentleman there his name is escaping me, but he cosplayed as Bailey, and and when I entered the battle royal, I encountered him first, and he called the Bailey to Belly. My dumbass, for whatever reason, I don't know what was going through my mind at this point. Maybe I was trying to stay in the Bill Cosby gimmick and everything, but for whatever reason, when the guy called Bailey to Belly, I thought in my mind belly to belly, which is an overhead suplex. Bailey's suplex, or blah, that's so hard to say. Bailey to belly, belly to belly. The Scott Steiner suplex, all right, because that's what it is. All right, it is a suplex to the side. That was the bump I was supposed to take. For whatever reason, the guy that lifted me up for the Scott Steiner or the belly to belly suplex to the side, I was thinking overhead. So when he hooked me for the suplex, I went overhead instead of going to the side and landed right here on this left shoulder. Ended up in the ER, and thankfully it was just a contusion. I thought I had just torn everything because I was in so much pain, but it was just a contusion. It was just a bruise of the bone. So I just wanted to bring that up because we're talking about Bailey, and that's how Bailey won the match against Dana last night. And it's funny because I always thought, man, that move is not effective enough to be a finish, but it is very effective if you take it the wrong way. And I took it the wrong way last week, and yeah, it was not pretty. I mean, I'm sure the bump looked sick, which I've not watched it yet. I'm gonna actually go back and watch it and see exactly how sick it looked. But I was in the ER, so just that's my story for Bailey concerning Bailey, with that particular maneuver. But yeah, Bailey took a lot of punishment when Dana just randomly came back. It was out of nowhere, really, just a Bailey to belly. I don't even think Bailey did her thing. Just out of nowhere, Bailey to belly, 1, 2, 3. I didn't like that. And again, there's nothing against Bailey. There's nothing really against Dana Brooke either. I really don't like the way the match itself was constructed. Rusev and Roman Reigns did kick off, but I'm gonna save the 3 Hell in a Cell matches to the end of the video. But that match did kick off. I'll talk about that one when I get to it. New Day versus Sheamus and Cesaro for the tag titles. This match, it put me to sleep. True story. I watched enough to know what happened, but for about 10 minutes it put me to sleep. And I think the reason why this put me to sleep is because it followed Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, which that followed TJ Perkins and Brian Kendrick. So again, I'm going to talk about the match placement too at the end of the video and why I didn't like it. But this match pissed me off, and I'll tell you why this match pissed me off. The match on Raw, where Kofi was in with Big E versus Sheamus and Cesaro, was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, everything was fluid. Everything was phenomenal. And I hate to use that word, big phenomenal, because it relates to AJ Styles, but I can't think of any other adjectives right now. I was so excited to see that tag match on Raw, and in my mind, I'm thinking, man, they're really gonna have to top themselves this Sunday at the Hell. They're gonna have to top themselves, and they just didn't. And it wasn't so much that the match was bad; it was okay. It doesn't even hold a candle to Monday Night Raw last Monday. But the ending, for me, you can call me a mark if you want to. DQ finishers on a pay-per-view will kill any rating for me. It will kill it. I gave it a 2. That was the lowest rated match on the card. And the reason why I was harsh with that rating was because the match that was on Raw was better, and the way that the match ended on DQ with Kofi Kingston in Trouble in Paradise in front of the referee. Yeah, not a good finish to that match. If anything, you could have took the match that happened at Hell in a Cell last night and put that on Raw last Monday, and then put the match that they had on Raw on the pay-per-view last night. That's what they should have did. Now I know Sheamus and Cesaro went over on Raw, but you still could have had that match and had the New Day go over last night. They should have swapped the two. That was bad booking. Sheamus, one thing I did call prior to the match happening, which it is another thing. I shouldn't be able to do that. The WWE is really bad at that, and it's with certain people, it's certain fans like myself, Smarks, if that's the category that you want to put me in. I knew one of the spots in that match would be Sheamus going for a bro kick and inadvertently hitting Cesaro. Like I knew that that was going to happen, and it happened. But in my mind, I was thinking that was going to be the way that the New Day was going to retain. But no, they retained, or that was going to be the way that that was going to be the way that the New Day was going to win the match. But they didn't even win the match. They lost via DQ, and that's just not a good way to book that, in my opinion. So I gave that a 2. T.J. Perkins versus Brian Kendrick. I gave that a 3. I think what the problem with this match, and I could not rate this below a 3, but I wasn't gonna rate it. I wasn't gonna rate it above a 3 either. The problem with this match is that it followed Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, and you can hear the fans in Boston because I listen. I do. Even though I have like maybe 8 people here in my apartment watching, I still listen for the crowd, and that helps me decide what the rating's going to be. The crowd was quiet, and it wasn't that the crowd was bored. I think that the crowd was just exhausted from Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. I mean, I know I was exhausted for that match with Brian Kendrick and T.J. Perkins. I stayed up for it, but I took a little cat nap during the tag title match. But the cruiserweight match I stayed up for, but I was exhausted because I was mentally exhausted, physically exhausted, because that had to follow Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, and I think unfortunately that's something that you can't avoid though, because you don't want to have the 3 Hell in a Cell matches back to back to back. So unfortunately, in a situation like this, you can't, a catch-22. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. That match suffered because of not because of Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, but because the fans were exhausted from Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. But if you take that away, the match was perfect. The storytelling was perfect. The way that they got to this match was perfect. I mean, mentor versus teacher. There is no better story that you can possibly tell. And the way that they told this story is fantastic. Like, I love how Kendrick on Raw last Monday was like, "Can you please let me win?" And then the promo last night at Hell in a Cell, "Can you let me win?" Like, it's kind of peeling back the curtain a little bit, because everyone knows that wrestling is predetermined. So it really peels back that curtain just a little bit, but just enough to like make a younger fan think, "Wow, is this really legit? Wow, did T.J. Perkins really let him win last night?" And I was picking T.J. Perkins to win. I was. When Kendrick went over, I was like, wow. Like, I wasn't upset when Kendrick went over, though, because I was so impressed with the storytelling, and I was so impressed with the way they built that match, that Kendrick going over it felt like it was the right thing to do, based on the way that the story was built. That's what's important. What's important with anything in professional wrestling is not just the wrestling match itself, because you can have a great wrestling match on Raw, SmackDown, or pay-per-view or whatever, but if there's no story behind it, then it's just a match. And I could rate it a 4 or a 5 based on the match itself, but my ratings also go into the way that the match was built up, which is why you have decimal points and so on and so forth. And I'm going to make a bold statement here. Next to Sasha Banks and Charlotte, I think that T.J. Perkins and Brian Kendrick was the best built match on the show. Next to Sasha and Charlotte, T.J. Perkins and Brian Kendrick probably had the best story built up on the show, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. It's a bold statement, but it's a statement that I'm going to make. All right, we got the undercard out of the way. Now we're going to get to the meat and potatoes. Now we're going to get to the Hell in a Cell matches. And I will definitely say, screensaver. I would definitely say that the ratings that I gave it of these three matches, nothing is below a three. So that's good. So let's start. Let's get it started. Let's see, which one should I do first. Let's do Roman Reigns and Rusev first. That's an interesting one that I want to talk about because again, and I know I've been bitching about this every video, and I hate to be a negative Nelly. Actually, you know what? Okay, let's start off positive. Positive. Okay, the match, and it's just what I said earlier. You can have a good match, but if you don't have a good story, then it's for nothing. Now I'm gonna stick with the positives for now. I'm about to go negative in a minute, but positively, okay. The spots that Reigns and Rusev pulled off last night were fantastic. The ending spot with the spear looked great. Um, just the way that they utilized the cell was great. It wasn't too many weapons used. Everything was fluid. All the big spots that they did worked, and it was fine. And the match was passable. It was a great match, probably the best in their series that they've had. I gave that a 3.2. Got to go with the negatives. And the thing is, the negative aspects of Roman Reigns and Rusev last night have nothing to do with the match itself. It has a hell of a lot to do with the way they got there. And I'm gonna bitch about it again. I am, because the way that they got there was completely screwed up. And as good as that match was last night, I was like, even when Reigns won, I was like, well, should I be happy that Reigns won? Really? Because the way that the story was built, they tried to make Reigns a hero, but Roman Reigns came off as a douchebag throughout the entire build to this Hell in a Cell match. I mean, it's just crazy to me. I'm not sure whether they're making Rusev a babyface or maybe this is a slow burn for Roman Reigns to turn heel. But as far as I know, Roman Reigns is face, and this entire program, Reigns has been a face doing heel things, and that is something that I cannot stand. And I'm not gonna make my blood pressure go up by talking about the build, but you guys know how the match was built up. And if you don't, you can listen to my rants in my previous videos because I talked about it in the SummerSlam video. I talked about it in Clash of Champions with Roman Reigns and Rusev. And I'm just not gonna have my blood pressure go up right now. I'm good. I'm good on that. The match was great. The story behind it, the way it was built, was shitty, and I'm sticking with that. All right, Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. Man, you know what, man? Where's my thing at? You know what happens? You want to know what happens when you have people interfere in a match that's not supposed to be interfered in? You want to know what happens when you have a cell and the cell is supposed to keep people out and somebody interferes? You know what happens? They go on the list. So Chris Jericho, you are on the list for interfering in the Hell in a Cell match. Because the point of a damn Hell in a Cell match is so no one can interfere. And damn it, we just had to have interference. Outside of that, and actually, I rated that match higher than Reigns and Rusev. It's just 3.3 for Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. Roman Reigns was 3.2. I gave that 3.3, just one little decimal point up higher than Roman Reigns and Rusev. They were pretty on. I just couldn't put them on equal footing. I did think that Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins was a little bit better because they utilized more weapons. They utilized the cell more than Reigns and Rusev did. The cannonball spot into the cell was great. The table setup where it was like the table was propped up against the cell and then it was a table laying there and Rollins powerbombed Kevin Owens into both tables was sickening to watch. I was watching it and I'm thinking, and the thing with that spot is Seth Rollins almost lost Owens on that spot. So when he went for the powerbomb and he was like struggling I don't know whether Rollins couldn't get him up or Owens couldn't get himself up, but I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna end badly. Luckily, Owens got up for the power bomb and they did the spot through the double tables. The way that Jericho got in the match was might have been Rollins who had a fire extinguisher, or I think it was Kevin Owens had a fire extinguisher, and he shot the fire extinguisher in the eyes of the referee. And as far as ref bumps go, I've taken a lot of them. As far as ref bumps go, that was a pretty cool ref bump, in my opinion, to take, or a spot for a referee to take, because it allowed Jericho to get in the cell. Well, the other referee came in to check on the referee in the match. That allowed Jericho to get in the cell. Jericho locked himself in the cell. And what's interesting about Jericho's interference, and as much as I hated it, you just can't hate. You can't hate Chris Jericho. I can't hate Chris Jericho no matter how hard I try. I didn't like the fact that he interfered, but I like the fact that Jericho got no offense on Rollins whatsoever. I thought it was hilarious that Jericho just kept getting pedigreed. He kept getting thrown into the cell. Jericho took the Tim White bump, and if you don't know what that is, referee Tim White took a bump where Triple H knocked him off into the steel mesh and hurt his shoulder. Basically retired Tim White after that. I think he refereed a couple matches after that. But that's the Tim White bump if you don't know what it is. Jericho took the Tim White bump, took the pedigree. What I like about Chris Jericho's interference, I don't like the fact that he interfered, but what I like is that Jericho took, in my opinion, more bumps than damn Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens did in that match. I mean, not to diminish Kevin Owens' table spot that he took, because that was ridiculous. But Jericho was just getting his ass kicked more in the cell than Rollins and Kevin Owens. I thought that was hilarious. And I thought that I enjoyed that. I really did. But Jericho would eventually the match would end with a pop-up powerbomb. Seemingly out of nowhere, just hit the pop-up powerbomb. They did some stuff. Owens hit the pop-up powerbomb. And what was interesting, Jericho and Owens walked out of the cell together. And then Jericho, as Owens was on the ramp, Jericho walked back into the cell and gave Seth Rollins the code breaker. And I was thinking, well, damn, that's just like an extra fuck you. And I thought that Jericho deserved to get at least that offense in, because Jericho got his ass beat the entire match. So if a code breaker was all that Rollins was if a code breaker was all that Jericho was gonna get, it was well deserved. But that's another thing about Hell in a Cell matches. And the announcers stress upon the fact that no one can get involved. The cell closes off anybody from getting involved, and then there's interference. That's just one thing that kind of irks me about Hell in a Cell matches, which is why I put Jericho on the list. And I'm a mark. I stole his shit. Whatever. Main event, and again, I stress main event. I said it before in the last video, and I expressed what history this would make if it happened, and those girls made history last night. They were the first women to ever main event a pay-per-view. They were the first women to ever compete inside of Hell in a Cell, and Charlotte made history on her own by being the first woman to do those two accolades that I just mentioned, and the first woman to win a main event match at a pay-per-view. Charlotte is also the first woman to win the women's championship in a main event match at a WWE pay-per-view. So many records were made, so many first-time things were established last night. That in itself was exciting. Just that alone. I gave this match a 4. I admit I was biased. I was biased with my rating here because I was so excited to see Charlotte and Sasha. And it was one of those situations where I had high expectations, and I don't want to say they were met, but my realistic expectations were met, if that makes any sense. I didn't like the fact that I liked the brawling beforehand. Charlotte attacking Sasha right before the cage even dropped, and they started brawling on the outside of the ring. I liked it, but I didn't. And the reason why I didn't like it was because I can't really incorporate any of that into my rating. because my ratings go from bell to bell. So all the stuff they did, on the outside of the ring, I can't really incorporate that in my rating. I'm going to talk about it because it was awesome. Both women did climb the cell, and I thought for sure that both women were going through that table. But Charlotte, I guess, dropped down and then caught. As she dropped down, Sasha was still on the cell. Charlotte got underneath her and gave her a power bomb through the announce table. And I've seen plenty of power bombs through announce tables. Oh man, that power bomb was sick. Oh man, that power bomb was sick. I can't even describe how nasty it looked. How nasty it looked. Sasha's body just completely contorted in a way that it is not supposed to. Um, and from there, Sasha was put on a stretcher. And again, this was all with little things that I enjoy. As they were wheeling Sasha away on a stretcher, the ring announcer announced Charlotte as the winner, or was about to. And as soon as the ring announcer made that announcement, Charlotte fought her way off the stretcher. She slapped down the trainer, got back in the cell, and just started brawling with Charlotte. And it wasn't like Sasha got off the stretcher and started brawling. She got off the stretcher and she sold the back. That is important selling. So she was selling the injury that she had sustained to the announce table and just continued to fight Charlotte. It wasn't like how, and here's an example of this, of where this is bad selling. This past year at the Royal Rumble, Kevin Owens and Dean Ambrose were involved in a last man standing match. Apparently, Kevin Owens likes to go through two tables. That's how the last man standing match ended. Kevin Owens, both men were in the Royal Rumble. I think Dean Ambrose and Kevin Owens are in the ring at this point. But Sami Zayn, this is when he made his return, or made his return to the main roster. He returned to the Royal Rumble. Kevin Owens, the entire time, was selling the injury from the last man standing match, which I appreciated. But as soon as Sami Zayn got in the ring, it was all bets off. Like, he stopped holding his neck and he just started fighting. And I caught that. And I'm like, wow, I guess Owens is not hurt anymore after that last man standing match. But Sasha Banks didn't do that. She got off the stretcher slowly and she slapped down the trainer, got in that ring, and was going at Charlotte full force, but at the same time, she was selling that back. Another spot that scared the shit out of me, several spots scared the shit out of me. The one spot that scared me was Charlotte did a monkey flip on the outside of the ring into the cell, and the way Sasha landed the monkey flip, she hit back first up against the cell and dropped right on her neck on the floor. And when I watched the replay, I'm like, oh, that was disgusting. But then when I watched it in slow motion, because they play it in slow motion, I'm like, oh shit, that's horrible. Because they slowed in slow motion how Sasha's head just bounced off the floor. And I immediately thought of one of the comedy sketches that Dave Chappelle does. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dave Chappelle. I'm sure you guys are. This is the internet. But one comedy sketch he does is things being worse in slow motion. And one of them was, Dave Chappelle taking a shit in slow motion, and it's just the sound effect of him taking a shit. And then in slow motion, it's Dave Chappelle taking a shit and like the toilet exploding and Dave Chappelle flying in midair. It's exaggerated. It's ridiculous. But I immediately thought of that because the monkey flip, when they did it, it looked okay. The replay, I was like, oh. But when they slowed it down and you see Sasha's head and neck just bounce off the floor, it's hard to watch, honestly. That replay just made it look so much worse than probably what it was, because Sasha did more shit after that. So you had these two big bumps, the announce table, the monkey flip, and Sasha did more shit. They both did more shit. They used chairs. I think they used a kendo stick. They utilized the cell very well. Sasha countered Charlotte's figure 8 with a chair. Just, Sasha was in the figure 8. She grabbed the chair and just hit Charlotte in the hip and the arm and just bashed Charlotte's body with the chair. That was the way the figure eight was countered. I don't think I've ever seen a figure eight or a figure four countered with a chair before. That was just that was cool. The ending was a little random though. Sasha or Charlotte had set the table up in a corner and like threw Sasha into it in an attempt to break it, but it didn't break. So Charlotte did it again and it didn't break. And then she just hit a natural selection, and that was the end of the match. And I'm not sure if the table was supposed to break or not, but it didn't break. Um, which, I've gone through a table which that did not break before, and it was not fun. So I imagine that was not fun for poor Sasha, and I imagine that both these women are probably gonna have tonight off, or if they are on Raw tonight, they're gonna get a standing ovation. Hell, I'm gonna give a standing ovation right here in my living room because that match was fucking awesome. I gave that a 4. Awesome match. And that's all the matches that were on the pay per view last night. The average rating is a 2.9, but I'm gonna round it up to a 3. That was a solid show. The tag title match I could have done without. Like I said, they probably should have swapped, put the match on Raw on the pay per view. And Enzo and Cass versus Anderson and Gallows. They got a 2.7. What I didn't like, and again, it's Enzo and Cass really, and it's not Enzo and Cass that I don't like. It's just I don't like the fact that their promo went as long as it did. It seemed like Enzo and Cass's little promo went on way longer than it should have. And I know that you got time to fill because it's a single fan pay per view, but they could have really shortened that. See, yeah, I pretty much covered every match. Overall rating of 3. Looking forward to see what happened on Raw, to seeing what happens on Raw tonight, how they build from Hell in a Cell on to Survivor Series. And Survivor Series is looking good. As we already know, Brock and Goldberg. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to Brock and Goldberg. I am looking forward to it because I want to get it over with. Because I still have a bad taste in my mouth from WrestleMania 20. Coming up next on Warren's vlog, though, it may not be the next video that I do, but it is something I'm definitely going to work on. I wanted to wait until this Hell in a Cell event had passed because I'm going to rank every Hell in a Cell match in the history of the WWE. There's been 36 of them, and I'm going to rank them all from 1 to 36, 1 being the best and 36 being the worst. And this is going to include the 3 Hell in a Cell matches that we saw last night. I'm going to do some research on it. I'm going to watch all the Hell in a Cell matches and just rank them where I think they should be. This may take me a couple weeks to do because, I do have a life. I work. I do have a full-time job. So I would like to do this before I do my Survivor Series video, but it might be after I do my Survivor Series videos. And those 2 videos are going to include the prediction video and the review, like I'm doing for Hell in a Cell. I'm going to do for Survivor Series as well. I am planning on going to Roadblock. So that's one pay-per-view this year I'm planning on going to. I went to Fastlane. Roadblock's going to be in Pittsburgh. So that's going to be an interesting episode to look forward to because that's going to be a live perspective of it. And then, of course, TLC is another SmackDown pay-per-view at the end of the year, which I'll be doing. And then that's what's on the schedule for Ron's vlog. Basically, I'm going to have the Hell in a Cell video of the greatest Hell in a Cell matches of all time, ranked from 1 to 36. I'm going to have the Survivor Series prediction video. I'm going to have the Survivor Series review. I'm going to have Roadblock, and then Roadblock prediction, Roadblock review, TLC prediction, TLC review, and I might do something for New Year's. Something for New Year's. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but that's what's on the schedule for the rest of the year for Ron's vlog. This has been episode 47. You guys have a wonderful day. I am signing out.